This review was requested by Nico. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly, and if not, Misa Society. As a heads up, I plan to do your other requests at a later date. I just felt like Powerpuff Girls Z was a good place to start. The future one might be Oban Star Racers, but I'm not sure when I'll do it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and for anyone else that wants to post a video request for me, please post it underneath my request video. I'll leave a link to it in the description. So, let's get it. Oh! And one more thing, Yato is not in this video, and he probably won't be in any other videos because I can't find a voice that's different enough to justify him. That means I'm probably going to have to take him out of the branding too. That's a shame, Oh well, I already spent an hour recording and got nothing done because of this, so I'm gonna stop wasting time. Now I'm so far off script, I'm not even making sense. Enjoy the video! Oh my god. Okay, so this is a weird spot that I've put myself in. I have the original Powerpuff Girls in the middle, the current reboot on the left, and the old anime adaptation on the right. And despite the fact that the fanbase and other reviewers accuse both the reboot and the anime of being horrible additions to the franchise, I have to sit here and prove to the people watching that one iteration is better than the other. Well, I mean, I don't have to prove it, but I'm gonna do that anyway, so yeah. So, like, is your goal to leave this video saying that the Powerpuff Girls Z is better than the reboot? Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, but man, this is gonna be a stretch. So, let's stop wasting time. I'll be counting on Mao here to help me gain a deep and meaningful understanding of all the weird-ass freaky crap that Japan puts in their anime that is totally okay because it's part of their culture and blah blah blah, lower age of consent, tentacle porn, thigh-high socks, pocky sticks, big sumo ass!
Cap, can you please not refer to the beautiful nation of Japan as weird-ass freaky crap?
Not unless a Japanese person complains about it.
This is going to be a long video. Well, at least he's honest. Still, mada.
Welcome to the Void. So! Did I startle you? After trolling the web for fair and unbiased reviews of the Powerpuff Girls Z, I mostly found butthurt fanboys whining about how it's not like the original. I say whining and biased because to me, any rating for a show or video game that is below a 4 had better damn well be justified in a long and detailed review. Not a single paragraph, you toad monkey! 1 out of 10? What, did the DVD not work or something? Why is the 10 out of 10 scale so hard for people to understand? A 1 out of 10 means it wasn't even watchable. No, like literally, the medium you tried to watch it on didn't work. Static, white noise. Damn it.
The animation is extremely poor, and the new designs are uninspired.
Uninspired? I'll give you the line about generic magical girl show, but this is uninspired to you? Looks fine to me. Heck, it's a good answer to the group of people that call the original designs too simple. Oh my god, he used the word drivel. The next review isn't bad, except that this guy doesn't seem to understand how anime and the magical girl genre works. Trust me, I hate the magical girl genre of anime, but I do for the most part understand how it works. This review is the worst one.
It's like Teen Titans Go, but dumber!
Son, at this point, I feel like I'm a Teen Titans Go expert, so believe me when I say that this is nothing like Teen Titans Go. If it was, I wouldn't have made it through 40 plus episodes. I bring these reviews up because they're great examples of biased reviews. Now, not all of them are wrong. In fact, certain criticisms they have are actually on point. The ones on my anime list are actually a bit more trustworthy since the people there actually understand how the magical girl genre works. Still, 1 out of 10 is a goddamn stretch, people! See, this is why people keep saying I go easy on shows. Because other people are throwing out ones like candy. Oh, I can hear them now. But Cap, aren't you being biased right now by defending Powerpuff Girls Z? No, motherfucker! You sit down and listen to this whole video before you start talking out your asses. The average score you'll find of the Powerpuff Girls Z is about a 6 out of 10 to 6.49 if you're on myanimelist.net. 6.49? Round the number, you assholes! Doing all that damn math! That was a joke in case you couldn't tell. So what is Powerpuff Girls Z? Well, it's not a Dragon Ball and Powerpuff crossover, if that's what you're thinking. Actually, Mao, what the hell does Z mean in anime?
Well, the fans of Dragon Ball Z use the term Zenkai as a way of referring to the boost in power Saiyans get like Goku and Vegeta after surviving a near-death experience such as a bad fight. However, in Japanese, Zenkai basically means last time. Among other things, Dragon Ball Z was supposed to be the last of the anime. But then Dragon Ball GT happened and now everyone's been trying to repress it for years. And now we got Dragon Ball Super, which is actually kinda good.
Haha! Majin Buu died and came back as a poor homeless black kid. Welcome to the race, dude! I kid. So, at first I was gonna call BS on the Powerpuff Girls Z title, but it kinda makes sense seeing as how this was indeed the last Powerpuff Girls anime we ever saw. So now we know that. The Powerpuff Girls Z is an anime adaptation of the original cartoon, not a reboot. Basically, the original Powerpuff Girls was so popular, worldwide honestly, that Japan wanted to make their own version. That's the story anyway. I can believe it. The original Powerpuff Girls was technically considered a kaiju in Japan, you know, because it had giant monsters in it, like Godzilla! Was that racist? Anyway, now, because the original cartoon already had a lot of action in it, and because Japanese kind of have this thing against cute characters looking fierce, that's why most Japanese Kirby game box art has him smiling, while the American one has him looking all determined and badass. So, instead of making a female version of Dragon Ball Z starring the little pumpkinheads, they instead opted for a more lighthearted and cute genre known as the magical... the magical girl genre. Now, before you magical Madoka fans get on me, can I just say this? Can I just say that I personally despise the magical girl genre? I'm not saying it's a bad genre. I just don't think it's for me. Okay? Mao, if you will.
Okay! For those that don't know, magical girls are a genre of anime that centers around young girls and teenage girls that have some sort of magical or super power. This power was either granted to them by something special or it was always with them since birth. A common trope of the magical girl genre is having a transformation sequence. The themes it has are usually friendship, responsibility, romance, family, or heroism. Sailor Moon, Magical Madoka, Tokyo Mew Mew, Magical Do Re Mi, and now the Powerpuff Girls Z are all examples of the magical girl genre of anime.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just an excuse to have shows that focus on lolly lesbians. Hashtag don't shag the kids.
You do realize that that is in fact an offensive stereotype and common misconception, right?
Inferiotype or concept of what?
Oh, never mind. Just continue, please.
Okay, so this is probably where a lot of people skip to if you've been using the time codes that I put in the video. So, one of the biggest complaints about the Powerpuff Girls Z is that it's a magical girl show, and honestly, I completely agreed. When I was like 16 years old, now I kinda see it differently, especially after watching the current reboot. So, because it's a magical girl show, it severely reduced the action. Or, at the very least, it traded the original's face-punching in for hammer-smashing slapstick. But we'll get to that soon enough. Let's actually start reviewing the show and talking about the differences at the same time. By the way, I watched the English dub version since that's the one that's relevant to my cartoon subscribers. So in the Powerpuff Girls Z, the main characters are Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, just like in the original, except the girls are now 13 years old, and they aren't sisters. That's right, these three girls all have similar heights, skin color, body types, and the eye styles, and they're not sisters. I mean, granted, the fact that their eyes and their hair colors are all different, that kinda supports that, but it was an artistic choice, so there. So the girls aren't sisters anymore. Big whoop, right? What about their powers? Well, Professor Utonium and his son Ken, that's right, his son-child Ken, were working on an experiment with chemical x-rays when they accidentally knocked a zebra cake, or whatever it's called, into the chemicals which turned them into Z-rays. Not sure what difference a letter makes, but we gotta work that title into the show somehow. So, the professor and his son were working on Chemical X for reasons? I mean, the computer said something about it having molecular altering capabilities, but I mean, what do they specifically need that for? They did say something about hoping to balance out any random chemical weather issues, and then seconds later, all the weather in the world gets screwed up. So, good timing, Professor? Anyway, in Townsville, a huge iceberg pops up and starts forcing the city into an early winter. So, as you do, Ken takes the Z-rays and fires them at the iceberg, which fixes the weather issue, but it also spreads black and white Z-rays all over the city. The black Z-rays are capable of doing stuff like granting life to inanimate objects, possessing people, turning them evil, insert default black racism joke here, and in the case of the white Z-rays, they can grant superpowers to whoever they hit. In theory. My, how specific. So this is how the Powerpuff Girls are born. Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup are all hit with the Z-Rays and are granted superpowers, new costumes, and weapons based off whatever was closest to them. So in short, Blossom gets a yo-yo, Bubbles gets a bubble wand, and Buttercup gets a hammer. Wait, so the girls have to become the Powerpuff Girls? But their actual names are Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup? Shouldn't that be the name of their alter egos then? Also, how come Bubbles literally got a bubble wand for a weapon? Meanwhile, Blossom and Buttercup got a yo-yo and a mallet. I'm not saying I want them to fight with flowers like some kind of pansies. Haha. But why single out Bubbles? Did they run out of ideas? Also, how come Buttercup didn't get a skateboard weapon? I'm not saying it'd be better than a hammer, but, you know, logic and stuff. So when the Z-Rays hit the girls, they immediately go into their transformation sequences, one by one in the same episode. And this takes a total of 1 minute and 29 seconds. That sounds minuscule, but when you have to watch this 40 plus times in the same exact way, with the same exact frames, it gets really old. There is a shorter version that they do sometimes where they cut together all three of the girls' transformation sequences into one, but that just reduces the transformation time to 40 seconds. And since the transformation time for the early and iconic Sailor Moon anime was about 45 seconds, I won't complain about it too much. Still, I recommend you go and watch an episode of the Powerpuff Girls Z for yourself so that you can see just how much it slows down the pace of an episode. Now, for the very first episode, the girls do the transformation without realizing it, which always felt odd to me. I have to admit that in this instance here, this could be considered lazy. If the animators had done something as simple as making the girls' faces look scared as their bodies move against their will, this scene would actually flow better. But they didn't, so... Getting back on track, Ken's robot dog Poochie is also hit with white Z-Rays, so now he can talk and eat and make the girls transform with the sound of his voice. Yeah, for most of the first half of the series, the girls cannot transform at will. Mojo Jojo, who in this version is a regular monkey at the zoo, also got hit with black Z-Rays, so now he's an evil monkey bent on taking over the world. Except he's kind of an idiot, so he always fails. Oh, okay, so here's where people today compare this to Teen Titans Go, and even the reboot. Powerpuff Girls Z is a comedy. A comedy made in the year 2006, but a comedy nonetheless. Saying the words comedy to an older cartoon fan in 2017 is kind of like coming out of the closet to your deeply religious parents. Don't do it unless you want to get burned and crucified. That was a joke. but not in certain countries. The bad thing is the timing. Powerpuff Girls Z came 1 year after the original ended, so fans weren't exactly eager for a comedic, girly version of the Powerpuff Girls at that time. At least that's how they saw it. Here's the thing. The only thing this anime really has in common with Teen Titans Go is that they are both non-canon spin-offs. To the Powerpuff Girls Z credit though, they made a completely different world with completely different rules, along with new characters and a new plot and a new design. Teen Titans Go feels and looks like a parody of the original show, while Powerpuff Girls Z looks and feels like a different take on the original show. And it is. Moving on. So Blossom and Mojo run into each other and have an intense stare down where they basically think to themselves, he looks like a villain, and she looks like a hero. That means we must fight! And then they start fighting, but in Powerpuff Girls Z, because it's a magical girl show, and a comedic one at that, the girls don't fight like you would in a fighting game or like in the original cartoon with the brutal beatdowns. No, instead they fight in a comical fashion that usually ends with each of the girls hitting the villain with each of their special attacks that sends the villain flying away, Team Rocket style. Blossom hits people with her yo-yo, Bubbles hits people with bubbles.
Fucking bubbles!
And Buttercup whacks people with her hammer. The average episode usually involves a crazy villain terrorizing the city in a silly way, and the girls have to stop them. However, one thing this iteration of the Powerpuff Girls has in it that the original didn't, is that it has a few ongoing plots, like Bubbles' childhood friend that got turned into this cyborg wolf thing that kind of looks like a reject from Beast Wars. They have to try and find a cure for him. Granted, it only takes 2 episodes and it's drawn out longer than the plot of Steven Universe. Oh! I just said that! Unapologetically! Bubbles and Cody's plot starts at episode 12 and it doesn't get resolved or even mentioned again until episode 48. It's done a little sloppy, but it's better than nothing. The other main plot takes up most of the second half of the series and focuses on him. Again, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it is something. So it's still about the girls trying to save the day every episode, just with a heavy focus on doing it comedically in the form of magical girls. The question is whether or not you think it's funny, but let me remind people that a lot of the later episodes of the original Powerpuff Girls were heavily comedy-based as opposed to the earlier action-focused episodes. See, there are a lot of YouTubers calling most of the cartoon-focused YouTube channels nostalgia-blinded, but I'm fighting that one! I'll criticize any series, except Young Justice because I don't want to die. I'll point out the flaws in any of my favorite childhood shows. Except Teen Titans, because again, I still don't want to die, and you have to admit that Slade was kinda... And I'll even criticize new popular shows. Except Steven Universe to a certain degree, because I don't want to be strung up like a rat just because I think that the main big diamond enemy gems are just sitting on their asses doing nothing instead of...
Do you like making enemies?
So let's talk about the girls in this version. As I mentioned several pages of script earlier, the girls are not sisters in this version, so at least that keeps the incest fan art to a minimum. Oh Lord, Loud House, why? I swear to God, the fan base is drawing little Lincoln shagging every single one of his sisters except the baby. Wait a second. Oh Lord, not the baby! Why? No, the girls each have separate families now. Bubbles lives with her grandmother, Blossom has 2 parents and a little sister, hashtag PPG Lolly, and Buttercup has 2 parents and a bunch of brothers, and her dad is a pro wrestler. So they all roughhouse and wrestle a lot, which totally explains why Buttercup is a tomboy, much like how living in a house with 10 sisters has made Lincoln anything but manly, and I approve of both of these. The families are only rarely seen throughout the show, so moving on. In the original version, Blossom was the courageous and confident leader, Bubbles was the joy and the laughter and the cute one, as well as the sweet one, and Buttercup was the tough one, the one that lived for battle and getting dirty in a fight or 2 or 300. Powerpuff Girls Z makes all of the girls a little more lighthearted. Blossom, for instance, is not the leader but the self-proclaimed leader of the team, and Buttercup is always quick to remind her that there is no point to any of them being the leader. She's obsessed with hero comics and anime, and she gets a little boy crazy at times. She also has a huge appetite for sweet and sugary candies. She's nowhere near as smart or competent as the original version, but this is a universe where Mojo Jojo tried to destroy the city because they gave him 39 french fries instead of 40. And he also tried to shag Miss Keen, so clearly being smart isn't really a requirement here. Also, this wiki lists Blossom as an otaku. Design-wise, she still has Blossom's signature long hair and big red bow. However, in this version, the hair is massive! Which is a plus for me because I actually love unrealistically long hair. It's one of my favorite anime tropes. Her regular clothes are cute, and her Powerpuff Girls clothes are red and pink just like the original, but with a Sailor Moon influence to it. Oh, and of course her eye color is the same. Bubbles is more similar to her original counterpart than Blossom. She's still the silly ditzy one, except she cries a lot less in this version. She's still the cutest one since the boys all love to compliment her, well, in the first episode. Meanwhile, nobody is running after Blossom and Buttercup. Hashtag unwanted. The main differences here is that this version of Bubbles is all into fashion, shopping, and so on. A little typical for a female character, but it was 2006, so I don't really care. At the very least, they don't go too overboard with it. She still has Bubbles' signature pigtails, except now they're a little curly, and her Powerpuff costume is still blue along with her eyes. Buttercup is tomboy. Done. No, seriously. Japan took the whole tough girl thing and wrung it out like a wet rag. In this version, she's got the whole I'm the most athletic girl in school trope going on. She plays all of the sports at school and is the best, watches sports on TV, and drum roll please! She hates wearing skirts. That's like the most default thing you can do for a tomboy character. Here's the thing. Like Sailor Moon, she's wearing one of those leotard things with a skirt over it, so technically, you're wearing a skirt, but you don't have to worry about the panty shots because your underwear is covered. What, are exposed legs a problem for you or something? A girl can be a tomboy while still being okay with wearing a dress and a skirt. Screw it, I'm complaining about something that nobody else cares about, but I will say this. The original Buttercup was the toughest fighter, but she never once complained about having to wear a dress. Unless she did and I just forgot. Anyway, Buttercup hates skirts so much that she actually rages and physically assaults people about it sometimes. Now, this Buttercup also hates girly girls, so she actually starts off disliking Bubbles and Blossom, but eventually she warms up to them. That always bugged me since they were treating her nice from the start while she was being all cold and stuff, but whatever. Her design ditches Buttercup's trademark, hair points? And instead goes for the classic anime spiky hairstyle, and of course her Powerpuff Girls costume is green like the original. But wear a skirt! So, these Powerpuff Girls aren't exactly like these Powerpuff Girls, but these Powerpuff Girls don't really need to be like these Powerpuff Girls, because that would just make them a cheap imitation of these Powerpuff Girls. And since these Powerpuff Girls are more serious than these Powerpuff Girls, they wouldn't really fit into the jokey comical world of these Powerpuff Girls. But hey, at least they aren't like these Powerpuff Girls! Is the Powerpuff Girls Z version better than the original? No, of course not. But they're not garbage. The best thing about this anime is seeing the girls together, fighting crime, saving the day, hanging out, getting into trouble, or just plain acting like idiots. Are their interactions always good? Hell no! Anytime Blossom and Buttercup argue over being leader, or the time where Buttercup is an outright asshole to Blossom, like eating her lunch and leaving her with nothing to eat, and then just acting like that shit was okay, those moments suck. In fact, any time where Blossom and Buttercup are fighting with each other in this version is just plain annoying. But then you have moments like the episode where Blossom and Buttercup go to Bubbles' house to help her clean the place for her grandmother, which is just really cute. They have a sleepover, a pillow fight, share a bath, sleep on the floor together. Okay, this is starting to sound like one of Miles' Yuri books, but I promise you, there is no forced shipping here.
Cap! Who said I had Yuri books?
In that same episode, Blossom and Buttercup are constantly freaking out because They think the house is haunted while Bubbles is just too sleepy to care. It's a fun, crazy, silly episode. Also, they barge in on the grandmother while she's on the toilet, and the old girl couldn't give less of a crap about it.
Let's try hiding in that room over there! Hello there, girls. I'll be just another minute and... Oh, maybe this isn't the best time to be asking, but did you know your house is haunted?
So, sometimes the girls' friendship dynamic is great, and sometimes it's not. I'll be saying that a lot in this video. Okay, so on to their powers. One of the biggest complaints I see in angry reviews is that the girls in this version are too weak. Which, if this wasn't a comedy-focused magical girl anime, I would totally agree. Now, they aren't wrong. I think the original girls would be able to one-shot KO their anime counterparts faster than a nerd can draw hentai of a new underage character. Anyway, the original girls were on the Superman/Goku power scale. If you didn't know, magical girls are usually really weak when it comes to combat. I said usually, not always. So don't go bringing up some obscure Super Lolly Fighting Force anime that I've never heard of just to try and prove me wrong. Okay? But yeah, magical girls tend to be weak. I completely understand if having weaker Powerpuff Girls is a deal breaker for you, because when I was about 16, I hated this show for nerfing my favorite female superheroes of all time. Taking the Powerpuff Girls and making them less powerful kind of defeats the purpose. But present day, I've managed to get past that. So what makes the girls weaker? Well, let's look at their powers for starters. They can still fly at high speeds, and Bubbles can still talk to animals. Sometimes. But that's where the similarities end. They no longer have laser vision, except this one time where Buttercup did have laser vision, only to never use it again. They have above average strength, that is a little inconsistent at times, where the original girls were capable of lifting buildings over their heads with ease. These girls at best can lift a large 18-wheeler truck. Also, Buttercup is the strongest out of the three. Blossom and Bubbles can't even lift her hammer without putting their strength together, and even then, they can only barely raise it. There's no super breath, no ice breath, no thunderclap, basically none of the random superpower moves that the girls would just whip out at random in the original cartoon are in this one. Instead, most of the girls' powers lie in their weapons. Blossom's yo-yo can be used as a long-range blunt weapon used for striking enemies and knocking them out cold, rapid fire strikes, and she can even fire a pink energy blast. Bubbles has a literal bubble wand that makes bubble projectiles that, hurt? They hurt enough to do damage, so there's that. They can also be used to trap enemies, as well as be put around someone like a shield to protect them. They can even be used to cushion long falls. And her introductory episode had her using it like a throwing weapon to bludgeon enemies. And it was pretty funny. Lastly, we have Buttercup and her hammer, which can be used to strike enemies, fire projectiles, and she tends to use it to deliver a final attack on the villains, which usually ends up sending them into the sky, like Team Rocket. Later on, they get powered up versions of their basic attacks, as well as a team super move, but that's about it. The professor teaches them a special love attack that turns bad guys good, but it doesn't work and it's never brought up again, so as far as I'm concerned, it's pointless to even mention it here. The girls almost never actually punch or kick anyone that isn't done in a one-off joke, so the fights never really feel like a fight? So yeah, these girls are not very strong outside of their universe. Inside their universe, the only character to be stronger than them is him. Oh, and Princess Morbuck's older sister, but we'll get to that in a minute, alright? The girls are indeed weak, but that's kind of what I expect from the magical girl genre, so I ain't gonna complain about it much. Besides, it's not like the villains are packing any power either. Segway! Most of the core villains from the original cartoon are in this anime, except now they are all more silly and less threatening. Mojo is an evil monkey that wants to take over the world, but since he's kind of an idiot, all he does is fail left and right. He's not even the archenemy this time. I guess you could say they really downgraded him. At best, I'd say that him has taken that role here. However, he is technically stronger than the original Mojo since he can now fly and throw rapid-fire punches, so I think he exchanged his brains for brawn. Because again, he's kind of an idiot. He's played for laughs, and he's a little childish at times. In the anime, he has taken candy from children, tried to kill a dentist for hurting him while fixing his teeth, destroyed a bunch of sweet shops so that no one else could enjoy candy, seeing as how his cavities were stopping him from eating candy, and for the creep factor, he has a hard banana for Miss Keen. Yes, I'm bringing it up again. Also known as Wi-Fi Keen because she's drawn way too cutely here. Weird. But yeah, Mojo has tried to win Miss Keen's love multiple times, and if this doesn't look like he's flashing her with his hairy monkey body to you, then you must have a very pure and innocent soul. Yeah, right. It's the internet. Nobody's pure here. Some of you people masturbate to the news channel. Fuzzy Lumpkins is pretty similar to the original. Big pink furry thing with a monopoly fetish. He's still going around yelling, "My property! Get off my property!" Except now he sumo palm strike stuff as a way of marking his territory. He also sings songs sometimes for some reason, and he once kidnapped Miss Bellum, hoping to steal her heart and claim her with a handprint of death. And I would call that bestiality, but Fuzzy Lumpkins technically doesn't have a confirmed species, so... Princess Morbucks is the more entertaining villain here. She's probably the funniest one too. The original Morbucks wanted to become a Powerpuff Girl, I mean the only Powerpuff Girl, and be adored by the city. She was a super unapologetic brat with an endless amount of money to throw around, and I loved her. For me, the anime version does not disappoint. She's still a rich brat that thrives on attention, mostly because her parents clearly favor her more successful older sister over her, but the Black Z-Rays have given her a split personality, so whenever her cat screams, she transforms into a crazy version of herself with a big curly afro. This other self is flippin' nuts. She's off a rocker here. You can see it in her eyes, man. This girl ain't right in the head, and it's hilarious. The girl flies around with a rocket launcher and giant robots. Her goal is to outshine the Powerpuff Girls, and if she has to destroy them to do that, she will. The Gangrene Gang is kind of like Mojo here. They're one big collective joke. Total pushovers. Now, they have some pretty lazy designs overall, and to top it off, Little Arturo and Snake are girls in this version. What the hell? Ghostbusters 3 gender swap joke. The powers are a joke too. Ace, whose name is Bobby Green here, throws cards. Grubber shapeshifts into a green version of anybody he sees. Arturo can hover. Big Billy is strong. Big shocker there. And Ivy, who is now Snake, the gender... Snake is Ivy. I mean, Ivy is Snake. Crap! Ivy can hypnotize people by fondling, I mean giving them massages. Weird. Also, they have parents and families now. The Amoeba Boys are still idiots, except now one of them is a girl, hashtag femininity, and they don't even act like mobsters anymore. But instead, one of them acts like a hillbilly, and the other two are aristocratic. Also, they were born inside of a dog's mouth. Moving on! Now, Sedusa is a split personality of this girl named Annie. Whenever she puts on cheap lipstick, Annie transforms into a whore! I mean Sedusa. Annie has a crush on this doof named Jason, and Sedusa violently lusts after him. She can still use her hair like whips, and she can use makeup to transform herself into anyone she sees. The main thing that she has in common with the original version is that Sedusa is mostly one-shot, one-trick pony. The original show only used her for like 2 or 3 times, and this one does about the same. However, the fights with Sedusa in the original are indeed way better than the anime battles. Also, Sedusa versus Miss Bellum cat fight, best cat fight in history! Meow mama! Now, the Rowdyruff Boys are the single worst villains in this anime. Am I using my grammar right? Singles? Is it the singles worst no, single worst villains. Single worst villain. Fuck it. I mean it. These brats suck. They were made by Mojo from DNA he stole from the Powerpuff Girls, along with some of Mojo's armpit hair. Because of that, their powers come from the girls' DNA sources. So, one of them was born from Buttercup's sock, one of them came from a Q-tip, and the other came from a straw. And that's what their powers are. They throw Q-tips, smelly gem socks, and spitting through a straw. Wow! The boys here are used for bratty, gross-out humor. They even pee on the citizens of Townsville in the Japanese version. They flip the girls' skirts, which again is dumb because their panties are completely covered, but maybe it's the principle of it? Oh, and in the Japanese version, they actually pull down their pants and moon the girls, whereas in the American version, they fart at them. I hate these characters! They're not likable, they're not funny, they're not entertaining, and the worst part is, people still like to ship them with the girls! Damn you fans! Hashtag single for life! Now, let me say this. The Rowdyruff Boys in the original... They kinda sucked. Hear me out. The first episode that they appeared in was one of the best episodes in the entire series. Don't get me wrong. The fighting scenes in that single episode had to be one of the best fights in Cartoon Network history. I still love it to this day. But I gotta admit that pretty much every episode they appeared in after that was bad, or at least boring. The episode titled, "The Boys Are Back in Town." The boys are back in town? Yeah, it's actually one of my personal worst episodes of the original cartoon. Hell, the wiki community doesn't even seem to really like this episode. It's got gross out humor too. Damn it. But, back on point, the boys in the anime are insufferable. They're so insufferable that I actually started skipping episodes that focused on them. Lastly, we have him. The single most evil villain in the universe, and in the anime, he's the most powerful hands down. Now, the same could be argued for the original one, but they really hammer it in here since he gets his own story arc. It turns out that the black Z-rays actually come from him's soul, so every single villain in Townsville gets their powers from him. Speaking of power, just like in the original, him's powers, they seem to have no limits. Dude can pretty much do whatever he wants. Grant power to anyone, grant life to anything, and even when he's at his weakest, he's still stronger than the Powerpuff Girls, capable of defeating them single-handedly. Him is also thousands of years old and technically immortal. In fact, the original Powerpuff Girls from the Edo period, not the original cartoon, but they got lucky when a winter wind blew in and weakened him enough so that they could trap him in a box and freeze him in an iceberg. Yes, in the anime, him is so powerful that he needed to be nerfed with a weakness to cold temperatures just to give the girls a chance at beating him. He nearly destroys the entire world by the end of the series. The girls had to sacrifice their powers so that the white Z-rays could trap him and drag him into the cold depths of space, rendering him powerless. And it's sort of implied that he'll probably freeze to death out there at some point. The wiki says he's deceased though, so... The second half of the anime is more or less focused on the girls trying to find a way to defeat him. Honestly, with all that in mind, you could probably consider the anime version of him to be stronger and more dangerous than the original one. Or, at the very least, this version of him is given a bit more freedom to flex his powers to the full extent. Again, in the cartoon, Mojo Jojo is the girl's archenemy. In the anime, him is the archenemy. Now, he's still comical, and he loves to troll the girls, but his appearance is less devilish and more court jester-like. All in all, he's pretty much the same concept as the original him. I repeat, he's the same as the original, but not really. It all comes down to how he's written, honestly. Oh, and he doesn't have the falsetto voice in the anime. The rest of the villains are all one-shots. Objects and people possessed by Z-rays for a single episode only. Like this dancing disco man. Or this living camera. Yeah, this is a show that knows it's stupid. It's fully aware, most of the time. Anything can become a villain. The living piano that eats people, but only after they play a nice song on his keys. That was a fun episode for me. So, most of the villains are a joke, but the entire show is a joke, so at least it's consistent. If you're waiting for me to get really critical, just hang in there because I do have my complaints. Just hold. Oh, I almost forgot about the mayor and Miss Bellum and the professor. I mentioned earlier that the professor has a son now named Ken. Yeah, Ken is annoying to me. He's very quick to anger, and he can be arrogant at times, seeing as how he's a child genius with a bunch of college degrees. Sometimes the girls provoke him, but usually he's just whining to whine. Also, his lab coat design is kind of dumb to me. I don't even really have like a deep reason for why I think it's dumb. He just looks stupid to me, with his Astro Boy-like hair, the cheap shoulder vibe he gives off, his stupid coat, dumb shoes, and gray socks. Baggy-ass shorts, the fact that he sounds like an annoying version of Spike from My Little Pony. Hang on a second. It is the same voice actor! Damn it! But I love Spike. I blame the ADR director. Ken isn't all around bad, I just personally find him annoying. One could also argue that he's kind of pointless. I mean, he is just here because the Powerpuff Girls aren't the professor's daughters, so he needs some kind of childlike thing to fill that role, right? The professor's design is just as bad. The lab coat is a joke. What's with the buttons and the pinkness? I love pink on Kirby, but it just doesn't work on you, bro. Most of the same clothing complaints I have about Ken go for the professor, but to a lesser degree. The mayor looks more like an actual mayor and an adult. He's still silly and comical, but he's not as... how do I put this? Mentally challenged as the mayor from the cartoon. Not much else to say here. Miss Bellum wears a white dress now, but her face is still hidden. Except now, instead of her head always being out of shot or covered by her hair, she now is actively hiding her face with objects, like a clipboard with lipstick on it? That's odd. The only bad thing here is that she doesn't serve the same purpose now. The original Miss Bellum was more or less a social commentary. See, her name is Miss Bellum, taken from the word cerebellum, the part of your brain that controls your motor skills. Miss Bellum was the logical thinker of the series. I'd say she was even smarter than the professor sometimes. The most important thing about Miss Bellum was her mind. Most people miss that because she had the hot bod and so on. Yes, they did use that rockin' conventionally attractive cartoon bod for humor too, like the fact that her address is 69 Yodel in the Valley, ha 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 ha, and then there's that whole catfight thing. But at the end of the day, she was both the body and the brains. The Bellum in this anime is kind of just body and not much else. She's not bad, she just doesn't serve a purpose. Hell, the original Bellum already had a body that could work in anime form, so truth be told, this is really just a professional recolor. And that's it. I'd like to talk about Miss Keen, but she really is just waifu bait and nothing else. Oh, she has a funny scene here and there, but mostly she's just here to look cute. And do yoga, apparently. So let's talk about the bad things now. The ones that I feel are worth mentioning. For starters, the reusing of animations is a legit complaint. Now, I personally try not to rag on Japanese animation too much since it's a well-known fact in the anime community at least, that Japanese animation studios are basically sweatshops with pretty colors and two-dimensional boobies. Still, I have to point this out. You can clearly see that a lot of animation frames in this anime are reused. The transformations are the exact same frame for frame every single time. Every now and then the clothes are different, but that's about it. But I don't take off points for that because it's a magical girl show. I never expect animators to take time and make new transformation sequences at random, especially when the show is not going to be long running. Heck, I don't even know what the budget for this anime was. Again, Cartoon Network didn't even run it during prime time. Boomerang, the Dane Cook of cartoon channels. I just really wanted to steal that joke. Thanks, Archer! However, certain shots where the girls are just flying through the sky are reused in different episodes. And even certain fight move frames are also reused, which is also understandable at times since it does in fact save time and pain for the animators, but the clearest example of this is the disco episode where the girls are dancing together. On one hand, you have the reusing of their transformation frames repurposed as dance moves, frame for frame, and on the other hand, you have them reusing brand new original dance moves at the same time. Again, it's not a deal breaker for me, but it was so obvious in this one episode that I couldn't avoid talking about it. I already complained about the length of the girls' transformation sequences, but now let's talk about just what the hell they're doing during the transformations. For legal reasons, I don't want to risk playing it and getting copyright flagged. But I will put a link in the description. Please watch these transformations for yourselves just so you can see what I'm talking about. I'll say this right now that Blossom is the one that's doing the whole Sailor Moon thing right. Her transformation is simple, cute, energetic, and her movements make sense. Well, more sense than her friend not sisters anyway. And her music works. Bubbles is a little off. For one, there's this weird sighing thing she does for no reason. Maybe she's bored or something, I don't know. Then she generates her clothing by snapping her fingers. Weird. And then she starts just swinging her arms and posing in ways that just look odd and strange, and this stupid swooping sound effect plays every single time she moves her arms, and her theme is bubbly and annoying. But Buttercup, she has the worst one. Her music is the worst rock and roll music ever. It sounds like the guitarist is depressed. The theme is short just like the others, but it just feels like it's dragging on and on. Buttercup does a whole bunch of air punches and she follows up with a bunch of peace signs that she throws around like kung fu moves for some reason. Trying to look cool, I guess. And then it ends with a multi-take punch animation. You know, that thing that eventually died out in anime directing. Also known as that thing that Samurai Jack used over and over. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying that it's not automatically cool when you use it. I hate Buttercup's transformation. My brain literally shuts down. Whenever I see it. I wouldn't notice these things if I didn't have to sit through these sequences 40 times back to back. Sometimes twice in the same episode. Again, please watch the transformations for yourself so you can see what I'm talking about. Another complaint I have is that the fight choreography is pretty lacking. Most people don't know this, but I spend my free time writing stories with a lot of fight scenes. One I'm working on right now is halfway through its 4th story arc, and it has 4 back-to-back fights in it. I am a bit of an action whore. Show me an anime with a good, well thought out, and exciting fight scene, and I'll probably have to go change my pants later. Sorry for the mental image there, but you get my point. I'm that guy that goes back and rewatches great fight scenes and versus matches in One Piece on YouTube. In fact, I think I do that monthly. The point is, I love fight scenes in anime and cartoons, but they have to be written and animated well. The best fight scene is, it's kind of like a ballet. Both people moving at the same time. There's a flow and a theme to it. Each movement matters. Now, the Powerpuff GIrls Z has comical fighting in it, but it's still fighting, and I have to say that it's pretty lazy, or at the very least uninspired. They each have a single technique, which is sad when anime like Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece all have characters with long lists of fighting moves and special moves that they can use at will. Having a single technique and reusing it in the exact same way every single time is something I expect from He-Man or Thundercats, or in Japan's case, Beyblade. Scream out a super special ultra technique and then the Beyblade rams into the other Beyblade. Rinse, wash, repeat for 13 seasons. God damn it. The usual fight scene has the girls flying around with the villains until they reach a point where they can yo-yo, bubble, and hammer them all at once for a defeat, and it pretty much never changes. They don't get new moves until the very end of the series, but by then we've rinsed and washed and repeated so much that we've gone bald. I will be completely honest when I say that without the comedy, the fighting is almost never entertaining in this anime. Like I said, the complaints that people have had about Powerpuff GIrls Z aren't all wrong. It's just that the ones that are right don't have enough explanation behind them. And as much as I'd like to make this video 8 minutes long, I need to take this time, all of this time, to get my points across. So that I don't get some nerd like myself calling me out a few years from now, #irony. Let's talk about the girls' secret identities. They're inconsistent. Despite them not wearing masks or changing hairstyles, the townspeople can't seem to tell who the girls are when they're in the costumes. Okay, fine, Superman gets away with that all the time. But the problem here is that sometimes they have secret identities, and sometimes they don't. Like in the soccer episode, a kid sees Buttercup's skills and asks her to teach him how to play soccer like she does. She agrees and then returns the next day to teach him, except she's dressed in normal clothes. What the hell? Shouldn't the kid be like, "Holy crap, you're Buttercup"? But no, they never address it. Later on in a fashion episode, the girls are invited to be in a fashion show. Yes, the Powerpuff Girls. Not the kids that turn into them that happen to have the same names and faces and hairstyles, and oh my god, this is confusing! So they have to wear the women's clothing, but since the only thing that really changes when they transform is their clothes, I don't see why people don't suddenly realize, hey, you're the Powerpuff Girls. Again, if they didn't take time and point out the fact that the civilians and the villains don't know that the Powerpuff Girls are the Powerpuff Girls, I wouldn't point this out. Also, there's an episode where him finds out that the girls have secret identities, and then he starts to troll and attack their personal lives at their houses and whatnot. So, again, what the hell? This is just weird and inconsistent. It doesn't even come off as a joke. I think the writers just screwed up or something. Another issue I have is one that may have indeed caused a lot of people to drop this show early. This anime has one of the slowest starts I have ever seen. The first 5 episodes of this anime, they're all painfully boring to watch. You know how a lot of popular anime YouTubers, as well as just people that have been watching anime for 10 to 20 years now, have acquired the skill of being able to tell if an anime is good or bad based on a single episode, usually the first or second one? Yeah, they wouldn't have made it past the second half of the first episode of Powerpuff Girls Z, and with good reason too. I mean it when I say that this anime doesn't start to pick up until about episode 6, where Fuzzy Lumpkins makes his first appearance and starts palm striking the city. The first 3 episodes are dedicated to introducing each of the 3 Powerpuff Girls one by one. The origin story of how they got their powers and forming the team together. So basically, it's like if you took the intro from the original Powerpuff Girls cartoon and then just stretched it out to about an hour and 30-minute runtime. Did we really need 3 whole episodes just to introduce the girls when their personalities are so simple? In all 3 episodes, the girls are just wandering around until the professor, or one of the other girls, finds them and explains the situation to them, and then they fight Mojo. Bubbles was literally skipping around town for God knows how long until they found her, and Buttercup was just dragging her mallet around until they located her as well. You cannot base 3 episodes on characters wandering around until something interesting happens. That shit is boring. And of course, Buttercup's episode is mostly her trying not to be Blossom and Bubbles' friend, because they're girly, and even when she starts to enjoy her time with them, she plays it off. What is this, some of that tsundere crap?
Actually, it's pronounced tsundere, although a lot of YouTubers say tsundere, so Tsundere is a Japanese term for a character development process that describes a person who is initially cold and even hostile to another person, before gradually showing a warmer side over time. Cap, have you ever seen a cool little anime called Full Metal Panic?
Hell yeah, I have. Dude, I love Full Metal Panic. Sosuke Sagara for life, man.
Well, Kaname is a tsundere, the abusive kind. She's really the only character that isn't a villain that constantly beats and assaults the main character throughout the series for comical purposes.
Ooh, yeah, that chick was scary. But I loved her long hair. But, back on track. Buttercup gets all of her tsundere-ness out in one episode. Mostly. The 4th episode has the girls trying to become Ken's mother. What the hell? No, seriously. What the hell? Also, Mojo is trying to turn the world into monkeys. Black person joke. It's odd, but the first 5 episodes all feature Mojo as the main villain, and they all kind of suck. I felt that I didn't start liking the show until the other villains started popping up and taking the spotlight off Mojo. So I guess you could say that Mojo Jojo is so lame-o.
No!
Oh, come on! I've been working on this script for days. Every joke isn't gonna be piss your pants funny. Sheesh. God. Assholes. bitches. The 5th episode has Mojo trying to take revenge on a fruit seller that used to tease him back when he was a normal monkey at the zoo. And episode 5B, because a lot of these episodes are split into twos, like, regular cartoon. 5B has the girls protecting the mayor's new tower. I can't even remember why Mojo wanted to destroy the tower, and I don't really care enough to wiki search it. Now, you tell me, do any of these episodes I described sound good to you? Let me ask you this. How many bad episodes of a show can you watch back to back before you drop said show? Can you do 5? Steven Universe is a show that doesn't get interesting or good until around episode 24, so clearly some shows can be worth the wait. Not every show hits its stride in the first episode. But you and I both know that we live in an age where people's attention spans are about as short as a insert penis metaphor. That's why I get paranoid when I can't shorten my video to under 10 minutes, because a big part of me knows that most people aren't going to feel like listening to me talk for 22 minutes at a time. I know I can't take it, and I'm the one doing the editing. So, in order to get into Powerpuff Girls Z, you have to sit through about 110 minutes of bad content. That's a deal breaker. A massive deal breaker. And even if you get past that, you then have to see whether or not the torture was worth it. So let me talk about the other problem with the Powerpuff Girls anime. Inconsistent quality. What I mean is, when you come across a good episode in this anime, like the one where Buttercup the superhero takes time to teach this random kid how to be a better soccer player just so he can make his grandpa proud, which is a cute and sweet episode. You have that episode, and then you have the one where Fuzzy kidnaps Miss Bellum and attempts to serenade her, hashtag not bestiality, hashtag I hope it's not bestiality. And the girls actually attempt to help him win her heart, only to get palm striked into space, which is surprisingly entertaining for an episode. You have those two good episodes. And then you follow up with something like a stupid hairdresser giving people bad hairdos and mind controlling them, or the Rowdyruff Boys giving the town a golden shower. But then you follow up with an episode where the Gangrene Gang gets wrecked by the Powerpuff Girls, and for revenge, they try to gang up on Buttercup when she's alone at a soccer game, but they suck so bad that she pretty much beats them up without noticing their presence, which is another good episode. And then you follow up with something like an episode where two dung beetles are falling in love. Do you see my point? When the show has decent or even good episodes, they have a tendency to follow up with bad, terrible, and even boring episodes. Every writer makes a bad episode from time to time. I've got a list of old videos that I made and I feel they're pretty terrible. Making a bad episode doesn't make you a bad writer. However, flip-flopping back and forth between good episodes and bad episodes is something that can easily turn your audience off permanently. Again, not all viewers are forgiving. I got at least 10 people that crap on me for doing silly voices in my videos.
What? I honestly had no idea that people had problems with your voices on YouTube, Cap. That's a complete and utter shock to me, Cap.
Because this show is sometimes good and sometimes really bad and boring, it makes it hard to recommend it to people. You'll find yourself skipping episodes at times. That's what I did. Skipping an episode just because it was too painful and boring to watch is a pretty bad sign. Some episodes are just straight up pointless, like episode 41 where Princess Morbucks' sister comes to town and sets out to show up the Powerpuff Girls. She pays Mojo to go and fight the girls while she secretly collects combat data from them, and then she has a prototype power suit made, puts it on, proceeds to go and overpower the Powerpuff Girls with souped up versions of their own powers, and then, for an encore, she single-handedly one-shots Mojo with a super move and takes all of the credit for saving the day, proving that once again being rich is the greatest superpower of all. And that's it! The episode's over! She just did that shit and got away with it. I was baffled. The episode was literally a my dick's bigger than yours contest. God! No Emmy for you! Or Annie, whatever the award is. You can't have it. No. No. And then there's episode 46, where him comes to town and beats the Powerpuff Girls' asses single-handedly, and then wrecks them with their own weapons that he somehow managed to unlock the full potential of, by the way, only to have Blossom then use her giant bow as a boomerang weapon, even though they never said that she was capable of doing this and she never uses it again. But now, thanks to seeing him use their weapons, they somehow now know how to do their super moves, and they use those super moves to defeat him easily. He literally showed them how to beat him. Damn it! And that wasn't even done in a funny way. It was just like, oops, my bad. And then there's crap I mentioned already, like introducing the super love beam that purifies all evil with the hopes of using it to defeat him, only to have the show forget it exists in the very next episode and then never bring it up again. What the hell? And like I said, some of these episodes are so boring that I literally was taking breaks from watching them just to keep from going insane. Thank God for Boruto, because it was just good enough to wake me back up after a long Powerpuff Girls Z session. I should probably make a video about Boruto now that I bring it up. I see your request, son! But that's the thing. When the episodes were good, I enjoyed them. I was happy to keep watching. But when they were bad, I was dying slowly in a pool of my own drool. However, I finally got to see the episode that started the whole Blossom heart panty shot meme. Yes, Powerpuff Girls Z has a few panty shots in it. No anime is complete without it, although I haven't been able to find a legit one in One Piece. Give me a link if you find one. Bleach had the booby bucket, Naruto had the underage naked Hinata scene that nobody brought up, but hey, we were all kids too during that time, so it's totally not creepy, right? And One Piece has both snake boobies and Nami's plumber's crack. Wait, why am I listing all this perverted stuff again? Don't tell me I got sidetracked again. God damn it! The Powerpuff Girls Z is not 100% bad. At least in my opinion, I think it has some really good qualities to it. For example, in both the original cartoon and the reboot, Buttercup is my favorite Powerpuff Girl, but in the anime, that honor goes to Blossom. I feel like she's the funniest character here. She gives the show that bouncy anime feel. She's always the silly one that makes most of the silly faces and causes her friends to have the craziest reactions to her shenanigans. I love her design. Her addiction to sweets is actually funny and pretty cute to me. She will literally fight you to the death over candy. They call her Hyper Blossom in the Japanese sub, and they are very correct. I've said before that I like characters that have, energy and they're very expressive. Well, this version of Blossom fills that slot for me. Sure, she's not the hardcore strategic leader like the original, but this anime has sold me on the idea of her being more fun-loving and goofy. Plus, whenever she's raging, it's pretty funny. I'll take this one over the neat freak we got in the reboot any day of the week. And I've already said that the visual design of the girls and their costumes is just more appealing to the eye than the original. Have you any idea how many times I've heard people on the internet complain and say that the Powerpuff Girls look like amputees? I've heard it too many times. Honestly, one of the best parts of the show is just seeing all the different faces the girls can make. Here, I've been screenshotting some of my favorite. Another plus in the show is that it makes the girls visually more unique than the originals are. Don't get me wrong, the designs of the girls in the original are great too, but these ones go the extra mile in making them visually different. This show also has an explanation for why Morbucks is such a brat. In a way, you might feel a tiny bit sorry for her, seeing as how the only reason she's so attention-starved is because her parents just don't pay much attention to her. Not as much as they do her sister. I mean, they literally take time and watch recorded tapes of her teenage sister doing stuff like playing music. They seriously have an entire wall dedicated to her sister's many accomplishments. Meanwhile, Princess gets half a shelf. This problem is never actually fixed, but I do appreciate the deeper look into Morbucks' mind. Her parents are real jerks, though. Most of the one-time temp villains are fine, some are annoying, but then some end up having some really funny episodes like the Cannibal Piano and the Disco Dancing Guy. I actually really enjoyed these episodes, along with the one called Armed to the Teeth, where Blossom and Mojo have to go to the dentist, and it's funny because it's so stupid, and that's what made it enjoyable to me. There was a joke in one episode where Bubbles had to fight a monster by herself inside a dark cave, and for no reason at all, the fight was done like a turn-based RPG complete with health bars. There's also an episode where the girls get turned into babies by Mojo, and for some reason they're actually stronger as infants, so they annoy Mojo to death, and thanks to that, I hereby dub these the Lollipop Girls.
Lollipop!
And here's a panty shot on the giant robot. No comment. The question now is, can I recommend it? I've been working on this script for days. Longer than that if you count the weeks it took me to watch all the episodes. While in the process of this, NC Jr. asked me an interesting question. Did I just say asked? Could I recommend this anime to people? That was something I hadn't considered. My goal, at least my personal goal, was to prove that this anime understands the original Powerpuff Girls more than the new reboot. But after I do that, can I recommend it? Well, let's see. The anime understands what the original cartoon was, and it chooses not to take the same exact route, and instead go in a different direction. We have the superpowered girls that are inseparable. They have a list of villains that terrorize the city, and they fight to stop them, and unlike the reboot, the girls in the anime don't put the city in danger more than the villains do. It hits similar beats, like the professor being the most important scientist in the city, the mayor constantly relying on the Powerpuff Girls to save the city because he's useless, Miss Bellum never showing her face, Mojo wanting world domination, Fuzzy Lumpkins claiming land everywhere, the Amoeba Boys are weak failures as villains, the Gangrene Gang are being delinquents, Princess Morbucks is the world's greatest rich hater brat, him being the most evil villain of them all, Buttercup is still the tough one, Bubbles is still the cute one, and Blossom is still the leader, even if she's the only one that believes that. And there's a lot of references too, like the girls getting giant robots that kind of resemble the original designs, mostly. And then they combined into one big robot, and that immediately makes me think of Dynamo despite not having the same design. Sadly, this robot isn't meant for fighting for some reason. The episode where the girls fight an army of vegetables in space makes me think back to the veggie episode from the original show. I know what you're going to say. All of that's little stuff. How is that better than the reboot? Come on, Cap. At least the reboot actually looks like the Powerpuff Girls. Well, that's the thing. The reboot is an attempt to be like the original, minus all the things that the people in charge have problems with, like Miss Keen's breasts or the existence of Miss Bellum. Take a look at this official statement for why they removed her. The girls have Green Lantern powers now, they're twerking, they spit out memes left and right, Teen Valley Girl slang, they got smartphones, the unicorn thing, commentary on men, it's unchallenging, uncreative, default storytelling and moral episodes, and the occasional butchering of the girls' personalities. I feel that you can change anything you want in the anime because it's not trying to be the same thing as the original. It's a completely different universe and it's non-canon. Its goal is to give you the Powerpuff Girls in a new setting, and that goal is further cemented by giving the girls a completely different look than the original. But when you're a reboot, and not a remake, you're trying to imitate the original to a certain degree. That's when changing crap in a reboot version can be a big problem. You can say it's for a new audience all you want, but you know you want that old audience money too. I'll say it again. The Ninja Turtles gets a new series all the time, and nobody raises their pitchforks in protest. Clearly, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Look, I'm not saying that the anime is leagues better than the reboot. In terms of a final score, if they don't get the same overall one, then one show probably has a single point higher than the other one. But what I am saying is that, despite the anime feeling like a default magical girl show that would have been reserved for a Saturday morning cartoon runtime, I mean in America the anime was ran on Boomerang, Glad to see the CN had no faith in it at all. Despite all that, it still manages to feel like it was made with the intent to be good. The character designs were done by Miho Shimogasa? I can't pronounce Japanese. She has credits on Cutie Honey Flash and Ultramaniac. Look them up. And if I'm correct, she did some directing on the original Sailor Moon too. There's a lot of good people involved in this. Now, even though it's nowhere near perfect and is very flawed, it still feels like the people that were making it tried. It feels like a show that was made for entertainment and marketing, but mostly entertainment. It's not a product meant to emulate the success and popularity of the original Powerpuff Girls, but with politically correct conforming thrown in it for good measure. It's a simple anime starring the Powerpuff Girls. But here's the thing. I don't know if I can recommend a show that isn't consistently good. Powerpuff Girls Z is at its best when it's being as silly as possible. Mojo willing to die fighting a demon mummy all over the sake of a pastry? Every single time the girls sling Morbucks into a big sack and haul her away? Fuzzy Lumpkins laying hands on the girls violently? When the show is aware of how stupid it is and it just owns it, it's a great ride. But when it's bad, it's really bad. I was forcing myself to watch some of these episodes in the hopes of the next episode being a good one. The reboots episodes can be so bad that they feel like they're 22 minutes long, even though they're only 11 minutes. But the anime, their episodes actually are 22 minutes long. So you can guess how long they feel when they're bad. There's 52 episodes in total, and I skipped like 7 to 10. The only other show that I've ever skipped episodes in currently is Steven Universe, but that show has a very interesting plot that I prefer to see over Lars shagging. So I don't take points off it for that. And also it has an 11-minute runtime, so that helps. And honestly, I'm just really impatient and I want to see what happens to the giant diamond women. Anyway, I don't feel comfortable telling you guys that the Powerpuff Girls Z is an okay anime if you only watch episodes A, B, C, and D, you know? That puts extra work on you when in reality you could just pop in a DVD of the original cartoon and be done with it. The show has very visible problems, and you might not be able to overlook them, nor should you. A good show should be able to make you love it in spite of its biggest flaws. Sometimes certain anime tropes like Blossom's boy craziness or Buttercup's overdone tomboy reactions can get a little annoying. The fighting gets repetitive very fast, and the Rowdyruff Boys might be the dumbest anime villains in anime history, and I'm saying anime too much. The music is a little uninspired at times, and the sound effects in the American English dub are distracting at times. And most importantly, the jokes aren't always funny, and for a comedy-focused show, that is almost always a deal breaker. There were times where I was laughing and enjoying myself, and I was happy to see the next episode, so I'm kind of torn. We have a show that's only good 40 to 50% of the time. Okay, here's how I think I can recommend this. If you're a person that didn't like the original show due to its violence or its art style, and I don't care what anyone says, art styles do matter. If you hated the original visual style and violence, then this anime might be the one for you. If you don't like the original show or the reboot, then this anime might work for you too. Heck, if you do like the reboot, you might end up liking this anime as well. But, and this is a big, massive, honking but, if you are a die-hard fan of the original cartoon, and its innuendos, and its action, and its art style, and its characterization, and its writing, you might despise it so much that you end up animating the girls from this version getting beat up violently by the original Powerpuff Girls. If what I just described fits in line with how you feel about the Powerpuff Girls, stay far away from this anime and you'll do just fine in life. There. That's how I can recommend this. So now that I've talked your ears off for God knows how long, I really hope I put the time codes in so people could skip ahead. It's time for the final score. When I got to writing this script, I was hoping that I could walk away giving this show a 7 out of 10. But honestly, Due to the anime constantly going back and forth between good episodes and bad episodes over and over, I have to admit, the highest score I can give it is a 6 out of 10. But the idiots on IMDb don't know what a 6 out of 10 is when they use it. A 6 out of 10 is not necessarily a bad score. It's like saying the show is alright. Again, it's 1 point above 5, which would be in the very middle of the score range. Come on, people. It's not amazing in any way, but for the most part, it's fine. The Powerpuff Girls Z is a fun little distraction with a cute look to it. Yeah, it's a little rough at times, and it's definitely not better than the original cartoon, but the good moments are really good when it has them. So if you can make it through the painful, slower episodes, you might find yourself enjoying it at times. The Powerpuff Girls Z might not have the fun and fast action of the original cartoon, but it manages to make you enjoy seeing the girls just being friends and hanging out together, and I think that's a pretty good feat. So, thanks to Nico for requesting this video. I hope you liked it, man. I thought about doing either Code Lyoko for the next request or Boruto, but we'll have to see. It'll probably be Boruto. Right now, I need to do the next Powerpuff Girls reboot episode, the Tiara one. I need to do the Lucky Girl episode of the Ben 10 reboot. And I might just redo my Shiza review. Anyway, post any and all requests under my request video here on the screen you'll see in a second. And there's a link to it in the description, so you can also click there to get there. I said there too much. Anyway, I'll see you guys in my next video. My name is Cap.
And don't forget about Mom.
That's right, and we're saying thanks for watching, guys. Later!